next thing would be what's in your pull list this week?
Oh my gosh, so many things. There's a great Wonder Woman story that's out of continuity about her waking up after an apocalypse, and there is this destroyed world that she is trying to make her way through. Everyone's super mutated and bad things have happened. And she's trying to reconcile her responsibility for these people that caused all of this destruction. And she wasn't there, and is that her fault? And I've only read one issue so far, and I'm very excited to read the rest. The writer, Daniel Warren Johnson, does books that are usually very heavy, usually about some sort of loss, grieving, and ultimately catharsis. So, good stuff.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds heavy.
Yeah.
Rich.
Yeah.
Anything else that you've got coming this week that's like you're super looking forward to?
I keep looking over there because that's where my stack is. The new X-Men books are really good. New Mutants awesome. And Excalibur. There was On the Stump and Bitter Root. Those are both intense, very stylized art books. One, Bitter Root, is about 1920s Harlem. It's a black family of monster hunters, and the monsters are all people who have been infected by hate.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty heavy.
I'm grinning and Hazel, and then you're like,
yeah. It's supernatural and family and legacy and racism. And then one of the writers of that does a book called On the Stump, which is an alternate history where laws are chosen by fighting rings. You have to basically, like, the two senators go in and they battle it out, and whoever wins, that's how it happens.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, if you like violence, punching, an alternate history, On the Stump.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
The Hickman thing that you mentioned, I really enjoy it, but it is like super epic in every sense of the word, because you've got all these different books coming together and these stories intertwining and references back to people and characters that haven't existed in 25, 30 years. Right. I mean, it's amazing.
He's a like master level comics writer. If you want something that's very heavy and expansive, and you'll read 60 issues and still not really get all of it, so you read it 3 more times, and every time you figure out some other ways that he's plotted and connected these things. He's a designer first and foremost, so he has that way of plotting out all these pieces, so he can see that master. I think about he was like a police detective, like he would figure out so much crazy things. But they're beautiful, and
the data pages in there that are kind of like, like
bonus material.
Yeah, bonus material. Yeah, just kind of round things out a little bit.
It's frequent that you won't really understand what's happening when you're reading John Hickman until you get to the end of it, and then you realize that half of what you thought was not what was happening at all, and it's great.
Yeah, well, that's where I feel like I'm actually like swimming around a little bit lost right at the moment. So I guess I'm right in familiar territory, right where it wants me.
Yeah, everybody's on the same page of what
what
just happened.
Yeah,
it's good.
So who's your all-time favorite superhero, Sarah?
Hey, I thought about this. I have to say 2, because when you own a comic book shop, you get very careful about not speaking in absolutes.
Oh, right, sure.
Because we all grow and change, and as we learn more, or as characters are developed, that changes. So my first answer is Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel Girl, yeah. Empathy is her superpower.
That's exactly right. It's just her regular girl power, but it has super effects. So instead of using her ultimate squirrel powers, such as Super Jaw or Knuckle Spike or Big Tail, she says, why are you doing this? What is causing you to be angry? Why are you going after these people? And then by figuring out what the motivation is, they can figure out the actual solution. And it's just so beautiful. Also, it teaches computer science, because the writer's a computer science nerd, and that's kind of fun. There's one issue where you learn how to count in binary on your fingers.
That's fantastic.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah.
And then, and that's all ages appropriate. It does have a kind of Twitterverse speak, The first issue I read, I didn't like it, and I was told by all of my friends that I was wrong. And then I read it again, and I realized that I was wrong.
Wow.
I do love it because their dialogue gives you the tools to react to different scenarios, whether you're the one that needs to say, I feel this way, or someone says to you, I am this way, I feel this way, I have this problem, and it gives you the things that you can say back in those situations. So big for growth, so we recommend it a lot to kids. But then there's Captain Marvel, who's more of an adult hero. Her issues are more of a grown woman who's had a lot of stuff go down in her life. And she is about persistence and reaching further and trusting that little voice inside of you that you know you have to do this thing, even if it means doing some, her run right now, she's doing some tragic stuff. Murdering everybody.
Wow.
You gotta do it sometimes. These are the great stories. And they're affirming, and they're again showing some situations that you may have experienced or may yet experience, and providing you with some frame of mind of how you can get through.
So there are a couple things you said there that kind of just got my attention, and the first one is the fact that you read Squirrel Girl 1 first, and then didn't like it, and then so the fact that, like, hey, I think, you know, that you're open-minded enough to not say, you know what, like, I'm just putting that on the shelf, we'll sell what we sell, whatever.
Sure.
But to open it back up and take another look and then be like, you know what, hey, that is good. You know?
Sometimes, you know, you're in the wrong mood for something. If you're not ready to receive something, you won't take it. You know, you try to help somebody with something, if they don't want it, you can't do very much. So I do find sometimes if I'm tired or hungry, or I've already read 10 issues of something, not in the same mindset.
Right on. Sure.
So it must have been that I just didn't have the energy to appreciate this super frenetic, super fun, positive. It's like, Sarah, why don't you like this? I drink some more water.
Didn't Captain Marvel come out? Marvel's got a line that's almost like for teenagers. I can't think of the name of it. I'm sure you probably do know.
Well,
but there was like a #1 maybe 2 months ago for Captain Marvel that it was like this teen level.
They're doing some graphic novels.
This was just like a floppy book, just a book.
Oh, I think maybe that's actually geared for younger readers.
Okay.
I think the Marvel Action Captain Marvel.
But that was Marvel Action, yeah, that's what it was.
So interesting about that. Marvel and DC have traditionally had a little difficulty being able to write for both general audience and also 5-year-olds. Because not every writer can reach those realms. So Marvel has let their kids' books go over to IDW. A different publisher now has the rights to make Marvel comics within the specifications, which is a really interesting point, because a lot of comics can be super mature or super kid-friendly. It depends on who they're geared towards. So the regular Captain Marvel title right now, I wouldn't recommend to a child, just because it's very heavy, it's very dark. She's murdering everybody. But there is now a younger line that's meant for a 4 or a 6-year-old to read on their own, and those are same positive good things, but not as much of the tragedy.
Right on, yeah.
So that's really nice to have something that we can give to a little kid. Batman, traditionally, not really a little kid character unless you're watching the animated stuff.
Sure.
So they're trying to make it much more clear, this is definitely for kids, this is for general audience, but then you have to be careful that we're not prohibiting kids from reading stuff that they may well enjoy and find good. You just need to make sure that they're being able to look at a variety of things, but also keeping the more extreme ones maybe for later. Like there's delicacy to, you know, freedom of intellectuality, and also maybe just looking out for people's best interests.
So
I don't know, it's tough.
One of the things about the shop here is that you've got the kids section, and you engage with everybody that walks in, like, on their level. Sure. And I imagine that just the way the staff is and the way everybody's engaged with me is, okay, hey, you read this, and you liked it, like, if you want a little more, try this, right? So I think that you would probably be a perfect gauge to say, if a kid shoot something up on a level
Sure.
like, okay, maybe it's time to
Sure.
start looking at this. Or
Yeah.
if this was too heavy for you, like maybe we take a step over and take a look at this. So
Right.
that's part of the, you know, you can't get that from Amazon, right?
True.
It's
True.
just
Thank
coming
you.
in and having a local shop and people that know you and see you
Right.
week in and week out and being able to make great recommendations.
Thank you. Coffee and comics are actually very similar in the way that you don't really know what you want sometimes, but you know when you get it. So early on, with coffee, when I worked there, it was a very early push of Wawa French vanilla cappuccino. So everybody wanted French vanilla cappuccino, but that's not what you get from an Italian style coffee shop. So we had to ask them, judge by how they're asking, you know, what are they accentuating on, how much do they know, you know, what they're asking for, and say, okay, if you want this thing from this place, what I'm going to give you, what we call it here, is this thing.